Okay, so here we are in probably something that you are familiar with, you've heard about before, but the Oedipus complex. So before we get into the Oedipus complex, let's remind ourselves of who Oedipus was. And I know that my seniors in the room, you all read Oedipus Rex when you were freshmen. So just to jog your memory, right? Oedipus is expelled from the kingdom when he is very, very young, and he grows up outside. Is it in Colonus? I can't remember now. Anyway, so he grows up outside of the city, and then he comes back when he is grown, and he meets a man on the road, and they get into an altercation, and he kills the man. That man turned out to be the king of the city, so he returns to the city, and now he has to be king because he has killed the king, which means he has to marry the queen, which he does. But oh no, as it turns out, the man that he killed was his father, and the woman that he married was his mother. And then, of course, when he finds out that this is what has happened, he gouges his eyes out, right? Okay, so Oedipus. Now we get to the Oedipus complex. So what is the Oedipus complex? The Oedipus complex is that during the phallic stage, right? So this is the 3 to 6 for little boys, where they are constantly obsessed with their junk, right? Okay, so during the phallic phase, little boys develop unconscious sexual desires for their mothers, and as a consequence, they hate their fathers as a rival, and they fear that their fathers will castrate them as punishment for desiring their mothers. Now, I know what you're all thinking. I don't want to have sex with my mother. This is garbage. Well, and perhaps that is true, but let's try to understand it in a little bit more of a nuanced way. Think about when you are 4 years old. Who is the most important thing in the world to you? Who's the most important person in the world? Well, it's your mother, right? Your mother gives you everything. Your mother feeds you. Your mother loves you. She comforts you when you are upset or sad. She plays with you. She does everything for you. She is the most wonderful person in your world. Now, again, remember, I said that this was a profoundly misogynistic and patriarchal vision of what the world is like, right? This is the 1800s. So this is only mothers take care of children. Hopefully that is not the case for all of you now. You probably, hopefully, when you were 4 years old, you also loved your father. But let's imagine that we are still in this kind of retrograde family formation where only the mother cares for the child. All right, so you're 4 years old, your mother gives you everything. You love your mother more than anything else. And the problem is that sometimes your mother has to go attend to this other person. And who is this other person? Your father, right? So your mother has to leave you to go make your father dinner or go do things with your father that you don't understand. And you feel jealous and angry and upset and think about, well, what about me? What about baby boy? Right? Because you are a boy. So this is how you can perhaps understand the Oedipus stage without this kind of, right, the Oedipus, not the Oedipus stage, excuse me, the Oedipus complex. And remember, it's unconscious sexual desires. It's not that 5-year-olds are thinking to themselves, I want to have sex with my mother, according to Freud. According to Freud, this is an unconscious desire. Now, it is a complex, meaning that you have to get out of it. You can't stay in the Oedipus complex. You have to resolve it. So how do you resolve the Oedipus complex? Well, this is where I can't give you anything nicer or a less kind of psychosexual description. How do you get out of the Oedipus? All right, this is how you get out of the Oedipus. You get out of the Oedipus because when you're in the phallic stage, you play doctor and you're a little boy and you realize that little girls are different than little boys. Because, and this is an important difference, right? If you're at that age, you're a child, you think that everybody is the same, right? That you have a body and everybody's body is just like your body, and that's just how the world is. But then one day you play doctor and you realize that little girls don't have penises. And then you think to yourself, oh my gosh, the reason why little girls don't have penises must be because they were taken from them somehow. And now little girls are these gross, degraded creatures who don't even have penises. And what if one day somebody takes my penis? And what if that person who takes my penis is my father? Okay, so this is what the fear of castration is. All right, so you need to resolve this fear of castration and this resolve this desire that you have for your mother. You can't stay stuck there because in addition to being patriarchal and misogynist, The other thing about Freud is that it's also very heteronormative, because what would happen if you didn't resolve the Oedipus? Well, you might be gay, right? So there is also this kind of profoundly homophobic aspect to this as well. So you need to resolve the Oedipus. Well, what do? Well, instead of realizing that you're going to desire your mother and kill your father or see your father as a rival, instead of seeing your father as a rival, see him as an ideal. Decide for yourself that I am going to grow up to be a big, strong man like my father. I will not have to give up my penis. I will just become him. And then I will get a mommy for myself who will be all mine and will give me all the attention. All right? So that is how you resolve the Oedipus complex. And that is everything on the Oedipus. Well, there's a little bit that I left out, but I can tell you about it next week. All right, so last bit is our defense mechanism. So the thing is about the unacceptable wishes and impulses, right? The face punching and the chocolate cake eating and the making out that the id wants us to do. Sometimes when that bubbles up and we actually become aware of these unacceptable wishes and impulses that we have, we repress it, right? We repress this down deep inside because we don't want to deal with the fact that maybe we have unacceptable desires, right? So we engage in defense mechanisms. So here are our defense mechanisms, okay? I will give you some examples. So regression would be something like, I've got a big presentation in English class and it went really, really horribly. And so now I just go walk back to my car and I sit in the car and I rock back and forth and suck my thumb. Right? So sucking your thumb is going to be regressing, retreating to an earlier psychosexual stage, acting like a child when you were actually an adult, okay? Reaction formation. All right, this one you've probably heard before, or you maybe even have done it before. You like Timmy. Well, no, I don't. I don't like Timmy. I think Timmy's gross. I hate Timmy. I'm going to go punch Timmy in the arm and run away, right? Okay, reaction formation is when you do the opposite of what your unacceptable impulse is, all right? Projection. Projection is going to be, let's say it's like this. Projection is, you know, I am not one to gossip, but she is such a backstabber. She talks about everyone. I mean, I have never in my life met anyone like this before, right? Okay, so what is it that you are actually the gossip, but you are, right, projecting that off onto somebody else? Rationalization would be, I wasn't maybe I had a few drinks at that party, but I was not the only one who was drinking. Everybody was having fun. I mean, sure, it was a lot, but it's nothing, I mean, it was a party. What's the big deal? Okay, rationalization. Displacement, isn't this an awful example of displacement, right? But let's say, you get in trouble at school and you get a big talking to from POF and you can't yell at POF, right? You can't take out your frustrations on POF, so you go home and you yell at your little brother. And then denial, I mean, yeah, like my girlfriend does spend a lot of time with that guy, and yeah, he does text her a lot, but yeah, and sometimes it is at about 3 o'clock in the morning, but it's really, it's totally normal. They're just friends. It's not, there's nothing to be worried about, right? Okay, so that's denial. All right, you'll notice that you have on the last page of your packet a defense mechanisms handout. So I want you to go ahead and find a partner. Go ahead and go through this defense mechanisms handout. Try to figure out what all the different defense mechanisms are. You'll notice that on the handout there are 2 defense mechanisms that are not listed on this slide. One of them is repression. Repression is, if you remember from when we talked about memory, that Freudians would say that when you have a very traumatic memory or some kind of memory that information that you don't want to face, you just forget it. You push it way down inside and you actually forget it. And then sublimation is kind of like displacement, but it's like the good form of displacement. So it'd be like, okay, I get into a big fight with my girlfriend, and then I take all of that angry energy and I play really, really well in the basketball game that night, right? So as opposed to I get into a fight and then I punch a wall or I yell at somebody else, it's rather that I channel it into something productive. All right, so go ahead and do the defense mechanisms handout. And when you are done, I put all the answers up on Canvas on a file over there so you can take a look and check your answers. And that's it. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful midwinter break. All right.